Lil Wayne was a druggie. Like this group of guys are druggies.
Lil Wayne drank so much lean his body started shutting down. Mac Miller turned success into a slow, silent self-destruction. And Gucci Mane was so deep in addiction that jail became the only thing that saved his life. These aren't rumors. These are rappers who nearly lost everything to drugs, and some who didn't make it out alive. Eminem. Yo, when we're talking about MCs who went through the fire and somehow came out the other side still breathing, ain't nobody got a crazier story than Marshall Bruce Mathers III, the cat the whole world knows as Eminem. This Detroit spitter who rose up to become one of the coldest, most successful rappers the game has ever seen, spent years locked inside a pharmaceutical nightmare of his own creation, a situation that damn near took everything from him, including his life, fam. The whole thing started going sideways during the early 2000s when the pressure of blowing up became too much to handle. The non-stop touring, the anxiety that wouldn't quit, the insomnia keeping him up at night, and all the demands that came with being a superstar after dropping the Slim Shady LP and the Marshall Mathers LP. All of it pushed him toward popping prescription pills as a way to cope. See, he looked at them joints as safe because they was legal and doctors was handing them out. And that thinking right there kept him from realizing how deep he was getting into some real dangerous territory. The addiction really grabbed hold of him in 2002 when he was shooting 8 Mile and got prescribed Ambien for the crazy insomnia he was dealing with from that brutal shooting schedule. That pill acted like a mind eraser, letting him perform in a detached state that he thought was actually helping his anxiety. But as his tolerance built up, homie escalated to other prescription opioids and benzos. We talking Vicodin, Valium, and eventually methadone. By 2004, 2005, my man was popping 20-30 pills a day, with numbers climbing to 60 Valium and 30 Vicodin, just to feel like himself. Everything hit different in December 2007 when a methadone overdose almost took him out for good. He copped some pills from a plug, thinking they was Vicodin, but them joints was methadone, way stronger than what he was used to. He collapsed in his bathroom and got rushed to the hospital where they told him he was about 2 hours from dying. Even after that wake-up call, he relapsed within a month. But eventually, through one-on-one counseling, hitting the gym hard, and support from sober homies like Elton John, who became his sponsor, M found his way back to the light. He'd been sober since April 20th, 2008. That's over 17 years clean as of 2026. But M's story, as wild as it is just one chapter in hip-hop's ongoing war with addiction. And for another legendary figure, them demons proved way harder to shake off. DMX Earl Simmons, the dude the whole world came to know as DMX, was a straight-up force of nature whose raw, aggressive flow and deeply personal bars made him one of the best-selling hip-hop artists ever to touch a mic. But underneath all them platinum plaques and chart-topping joints was a darkness that planted itself in his soul during childhood and would eventually take his life. X got introduced to drugs at just 14 years old when his mentor, a local rapper named Reddy Ron, straight up violated his trust by tricking him into hitting a blunt laced with crack cocaine. At that time, young Earl wasn't messing with nothing. No cigarettes, no weed, nothing. But Reddy Ron, who was about 30 at the time, passed him that blunt without telling him what was really in it. That betrayal, which DMX would later call the birth of the monster, sparked a severe crack addiction that haunted him for the rest of his days.
Do you want to stop?
Yeah.
Are you working on it?
Yeah, every day. Every day.
And how so?
I start my day off with a prayer, ask the Lord to guide my steps and, cover me, keep me safe.
Where he grew up ain't helped neither. Coming up in them poverty-stricken projects where crime was everywhere you looked, DMX turned to robbery and hip-hop as his only ways out. When his career blew up in 1998 with his debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, the addiction got worse right alongside the fame. By the early 2000s, he was catching cases left and right. Drug possession, DUIs, assault charges, all connected to his substance abuse. In 2016, homie damn near died from an overdose in a Yonkers hotel parking lot, collapsing and needing Narcan to bring him back. He went to rehab multiple times, showed up on Dr. Phil and Iyanla Fix My Life, and publicly talked about dealing with trauma. But the addiction kept its grip on him, all tangled up with mental health issues he tried to downplay. On April 2nd, 2021, DMX suffered a heart attack triggered by a drug overdose that caused his brain to lose oxygen. He went into a coma and passed away on April 9th, 2021, at 50 years old. Toxicology showed a combination of cocaine, fentanyl, and other substances had contributed to his death. While X's battle ended in tragedy, another Southern legend's addiction would take a different but equally devastating toll on his career and his body. Lil Wayne, Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., born in New Orleans and known everywhere as Lil Wayne, signed with Cash Money Records when he was just 12 years old and went on to become one of the most influential voices in the rap game. But his personal life been marked by some serious substance abuse issues, especially with that lean, that recreational mix of prescription cough syrup with codeine and promethazine, usually poured up in some soda with candy. Weezy started getting into drugs during his teenage years, coming up in the crime-ridden Holly Grove neighborhood, where substances like codeine was just part of the culture. He openly repped his love for lean in his bars, treating it like a lifestyle staple. Tracks like Me and My Drank celebrated that substance, and it definitely contributed to lean becoming glamorized across hip-hop.
Lil Wayne was a druggie. Like this group of guys are druggies. It wasn't just syrup, he was doing all that shit. He was doing shrooms before they even talking shrooms. That's why all of his music, homie, his creativity, he can't tap back in because it's done burnt out. He needed these drugs and this mind-altering substance to go into this studio.
That lean addiction caused some serious health problems, mainly seizures that kept putting him in the hospital. In October 2012, he had 2 seizures on a private jet, forcing emergency landings in both Texas and Louisiana. Then in March 2013, he had multiple seizures on a video shoot and got rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. They found him unconscious, pumped his stomach, and discovered crazy high codeine levels in his system. He spent 6 days in the ICU, and people close to him said he had downed 3 bottles of lean the night before. In June 2023, Wayne admitted he's dealing with memory loss from his epilepsy that makes it hard to remember his own songs, something a lot of folks attribute to all them years of drug abuse. His mental health struggles made the addiction even worse. In 2021, he talked about trying to take his own life at 12 and the battles he still faces. While Wayne has tried to cut back on the lean following doctors' orders, people still worry about what that addiction has done to his body. Speaking of lean's devastating effects, another young artist's dependency on that sip would grab global attention when his life got cut way too short. Juice WRLD. Jared Anthony Higgins, who blessed the world under the name Juice WRLD, was a Chicago rapper whose emotionally raw style mixed drill with emo and pop-punk vibes. He came up through SoundCloud, blowing up massive with Lucid Dreams, but his music always dug into personal struggles, including the drug addiction that would end up taking his life when he was only 21. Homie started experimenting with substances as early as freshman year of high school, around 14 or 15 years old. He got influenced by the drug-heavy music of rappers like Future, who he said in a 2018 interview inspired him to try lean. His addiction mainly involved prescription opioids and downers, Percocet, codeine through that lean, and Xanax.
It's like a fine line between having an influence and like letting the drugs like do you instead of you doing the drugs, like, cause it's so easy to get overconsumed and shit. I mean, I kind of lucked out because I didn't know the fine line between, like, you know, just taking something to come up with some ideas or getting the vibe versus that being the lifestyle.
As his career took off, his drug use got even heavier because of all the access he now had. His peoples noticed him sneaking pills with different groups while acting sober around others. His engineer, Max Lord, confronted him crying during a 2019 Australia tour about how many pills he was taking, scared for his life. He agreed to go to rehab, booking a spot for December 22nd, 2019, the earliest they could get him in, but he ran out of time. On December 8, 2019, just after turning 21, Juice died from an accidental overdose of oxycodone and codeine. After landing at Chicago Midway Airport, he started seizing while cops was searching his plane. People saw him swallow multiple Percocet pills trying to hide them. They hit him with Narcan, but he was pronounced dead at the hospital. His moms went on to start the Live Free 999 Foundation to help young people dealing with addiction, anxiety, and depression. Another artist who kept it real about how success and depression got wrapped up in his substance abuse was the Pittsburgh native whose death shook the whole hip-hop community. Mac Miller, Malcolm James McCormick, who the world knew as Mac Miller, was a Pittsburgh rapper, singer, and producer who came up in the early 2010s with his independent mixtapes before evolving from that frat rap style to more introspective, jazz-influenced hip-hop. His battle with addiction was all in his music and his interviews, and it ended with his death at just 26 years old.
I had a drug problem. You know, for a long time. It wasn't just in music, but I definitely was going through a drug problem, and I think it was more my state of mind. I was just pretty depressed, as everyone.
Even while successful?
Yeah, I think it started.
With success?
Yeah.
Mac kept it 100 about his substance abuse, which started with weed in high school and escalated as his career popped off. Things got worse after Blue Slide Park dropped in 2011. Bad reviews and the stress of touring led to heavy weed smoking, then lean. In a 2013 Complex interview, he admitted to a serious lean addiction. "I love lean. It's great. I was not happy, and I was on lean very heavy. I was soaked up all the time. It was bad." His 2014 mixtape Faces went deep into his daily drug use, depression, and suicidal thoughts, with bars like, "A drug habit like Philip Hoffman will probably put me in a coffin." By 2016, he had 3 months clean and said he was feeling better mentally and creatively, but he relapsed after his 2018 split with Ariana Grande, falling back into heavy drinking and hard drugs. On September 7, 2018, Mac was found unresponsive at his LA crib and pronounced dead from acute combined drug intoxication, fentanyl, cocaine, and alcohol all in his system. 3 dudes got charged for supplying him fentanyl-laced fake oxys. His death sparked major conversations about addiction and how dangerous fentanyl has become in the hip-hop world. While Mac's story ended in tragedy, another artist who stayed open about his mental health and addiction struggles managed to survive a stroke and come back with a powerful message about recovery. Pimp C, Chad Lamont Butler, known to the culture as Pimp C, was one half of the legendary Texas duo Underground Kings, UGK, and a pioneer of that southern hip-hop sound. His gritty tales about street life and drug culture helped define Texas rap, but his severe addiction to lean would ultimately play a role in his death. Pimp C was one of the biggest advocates for lean, that mixture of prescription-strength codeine, cough syrup, and promethazine that you pour up in soda. That drink became a staple in southern hip-hop, popularized by cats like DJ Screw, who passed in 2000 from a codeine overdose. Pimp C rapped about lean constantly, including on UGK's collaboration with 3-6 Mafia on Sippin' on Some Syrup, where he glorified what that sip did for him. His addiction was severe and had been going on for years. He also had sleep apnea, a condition that makes you stop breathing during sleep, which made his drug use even more dangerous. After doing nearly 4 years in prison on an aggravated assault conviction, he reportedly went right back to heavy consumption, which led to weight gain and declining health. On December 4th, 2007, Pimp C was found dead in his room at the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood at 33 years old. The coroner ruled it accidental, saying respiratory depression from an overdose of promethazine and codeine combined with his sleep apnea caused his death. His passing shined a spotlight on the dangers of lean and sparked real conversations about addiction in the southern hip-hop scene. Another ATL legend whose addiction almost destroyed him before he completely transformed himself would emerge from years of chaos with an inspiring story of redemption. Gucci Mane. Radrick Delantic Davis, known everywhere as Gucci Mane, is a trap music pioneer whose career was heavily overshadowed by a severe drug addiction that got all tangled up with mental health issues and multiple trips to the pen.
I was addicted. If addiction, like I was addicted, but I didn't think I was addicted during my usage, because I didn't think that I was on the drug so bad that if I stopped, I would have like physical withdrawals. I associate that with like drug use and junkie stuff. Man, when I went in jail and then I went drinking lean, I went through like withdrawal, like you withdrawing from heroin or something like that. It was like physical.
Guwap started messing with drugs during his teenage years, coming up in East Atlanta's high crime zone. By 8th grade, he was already moving cannabis and crack, using Christmas money to cop crack for resale. His addiction went crazy in the 2000s and 2010s. We talking cannabis, crack, codeine, promethazine, ecstasy, and prescription pills. He admitted to drinking lean so heavy it had him out of my mind and smoking nearly a pound of weed every single day. That addiction fueled over 20 arrests, drug cases, weapons charges, probation violations, the whole nine. In 2013, he admitted a codeine promethazine binge destroyed him and announced he was going to rehab before getting sentenced to federal prison. The turning point came during his 2014-2016 bid, where he got clean cold turkey despite brutal withdrawal symptoms. When he came home, he dropped all that weight, got that lean gut replaced with a six-pack, married Keishia Kalwar, who became his rock, and by 2025, dropped Episodes, the diary of a recovering madman, going deep into mental health and recovery. He keeps it real that relapse don't mean failure, preaching connection over isolation when battling addiction. Speaking of Atlanta rappers who went to war with addiction, another Bankhead native's prescription pill dependency would land him right back behind bars. T.I. Clifford Joseph Harris Jr., professionally known as T.I., is an Atlanta rapper who came up with bangers like Rubber Band Man and pioneered the trap sound. His career been marked by some serious legal troubles, a lot of them connected to drug issues that peaked with a severe addiction to prescription opioids. T.I.'s most documented battle with serious addiction happened in 2010, starting from prescription painkillers he got after major dental work. He had oral surgeries, including extractions and 6 to 8 root canals while doing time in prison. He started using the pills for legit pain but got hooked, noting they made him feel good and was legal. On September 1st, 2010, he got popped in LA with his wife for ecstasy possession during a traffic stop, then tested positive for opiates, which violated his probation. He got sentenced to 11 months. During sentencing, he kept it real. I screwed up big time, and I am sorry. I don't want and I don't need to use drugs anymore. Tip credits hitting rock bottom as the key to his recovery, saying you need that mental ass whooping before you can really change. He reached out to Eminem for advice, since M had beat similar pill addictions. As of 2026, T.I. been staying clean publicly, focusing on his music, his businesses, and helping others in their recovery journey. From the A to Seattle, another artist would become famous not just for his music, but for keeping it 100 about his battles with addiction. Macklemore, Benjamin Hammond. Haggerty, known as Macklemore, blew up with his 2012 album, The Heist, and joints like Thrift Shop. Throughout his whole career, he's been real open about fighting substance abuse, putting those experiences in his music and using his platform to advocate for recovery. Macklemore's struggles started around 13 or 14 years old when he had his first experience with alcohol alone at his parents' crib. He described taking one shot that quickly turned into 12 shots in 30 minutes. He later compared his addiction to an allergy, where even a small amount triggered an urge for more that he couldn't turn off. During his late teens and early 20s, he started messing with harder stuff, including OxyContin. He's called OxyContin synthetic heroin and identified it as the most intense drug he ever abused. Withdrawals were brutal, sweating through the sheets, shaking, losing all sense of happiness. After the heist went crazy in 2012-2013, he stopped going to 12-step meetings and relapsed back into pills and heavy weed smoking. Another relapse hit when COVID started in 2020, since the shutdown stopped in-person meetings. By March 2023, he had over 2 years sober, having dropped his album Ben that was influenced by that pandemic relapse. In 2016, he linked up with President Obama for a White House address on the opioid crisis, sharing his story to push for better access to treatment. The next story takes us back to hip-hop's origins, where even a founding member of one of the most influential groups in the culture wasn't safe from addiction's grip. Flavor Flav. William Jonathan Drayton Jr., known as Flavor Flav, is a founding member of the legendary hip-hop group Public Enemy, who became iconic for his high-energy style, them oversized clock necklaces, and his signature, "Yeah, boy." But underneath that persona was a devastating addiction that ate up millions of dollars and almost ended his life. Flav's severe addiction to crack cocaine and cocaine started escalating in the early 1990s, right when Public Enemy was at their peak. By 1991, he pled guilty to assaulting his girlfriend, did 30 days, lost custody of his kids, and fell deeper into addiction. His family staged an intervention and got him into Betty Ford for that first rehab stint. Flav later revealed he was spending $2,400 to $2,600 every single day on cocaine and crack for 6 straight years in the 90s, totaling somewhere between $5.3 and $5.7 million. He was abusing multiple substances, including Quaaludes, PCP, weed, and alcohol for about 18 years. He described drugs as a robot that took control, making him miss shows and pushing his family away. Recovery started for real around 2008. By 2019, he reported 8.5 years clean from cocaine and crack, and by 2023, he hit 15 years sober from hard drugs. However, he had a brief relapse around his March 2025 birthday, resetting his sobriety count while keeping it real about accountability. Flav uses his story to inspire others, proving recovery is an ongoing journey. Our last entry takes us to the Chicago drill scene, where one pioneer's addiction would claim his life at just 27. Fredo Santana. Derek Antonio Coleman, known as Fredo Santana, was a major figure in the Chicago drill scene who came up in the tough Parkway Gardens housing project, O Block, where life was real out there from jump. As Chief Keef's older cousin, Santana helped pioneer that raw, aggressive sound that put Chicago on the global hip-hop map. But his severe addiction to Xanax and lean would ultimately take his life. Santana was heavy into Xanax and lean, openly referencing them in his bars and on social media. He said his addiction came from from untreated PTSD from childhood traumas, explaining he used drugs to run from my old life and avoid facing his demons. His health fell apart over time. In March 2017, he got hospitalized after a seizure, which he blamed on not sleeping because of his grinding work schedule. In October 2017, his homie Gino Marley found him on the floor mid-seizure, bleeding from his mouth. He got diagnosed with liver and kidney failure, mainly caused by his Xanax and lean addiction. He reportedly got 60-70 days clean from lean before he passed. On January 19, 2018, Santana was found unresponsive by his girl at their spot in LA. He had a fatal seizure and was pronounced dead at 27. The autopsy showed cardiovascular disease made worse by epilepsy, with liver and kidney failure from his drug history contributing to his death. He left behind an 8-month-old son and a legacy as a drill pioneer whose story remains a cautionary tale about the dangers of addiction in hip-hop. Love this video? Click on these cards for more.